They tell you the worst thing about getting old is your body breaking down, or your memory fading, or watching the world move faster while you move slower. They are wrong. I am 82 years old. Every morning I sit on this porch and watch the sun rise over a neighborhood that no longer knows my name. And I can tell you this clearly now. The hardest part isn't the pain in my joints. It isn't even losing the people I loved, though that kind of loss never fully heals. The hardest part is the silence. When I was younger, I thought silence meant loneliness, that it meant failure, regret, being forgotten. I didn't understand back then. Silence isn't empty. It's a mirror, and if you're not ready to face what's staring back at you, it can break you. I don't have a degree in psychology. I'm not a guru. I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm just a man who has outlived the noise. I've lived through 8 decades. I've watched wars begin and end on a television screen. I've raised 3 children who now have gray hair of their own. I built a career. I built a home. And then I watched as time quietly took it all back. For the last 10 years, I've been learning how to be alone. Not escaping it, learning it. When you've lived this long, patterns start to appear. You begin to see the gap between what we chase and what actually stays. I'm not speaking to you because I'm wise. I'm speaking because I finally stopped running and woke up. For most of my life, I was very good at playing my role. I was the provider, the reliable husband, the responsible father, the man who was always busy and proud of it. I wore exhaustion like a badge of honor. If my calendar was full, I felt important. If I was always rushing, I felt needed. I filled every quiet moment with noise. The radio in the car, the television, the moment I walked through the door, anything to avoid the sound of my own thoughts. I told myself I was running toward success. I told myself I was doing it for my family. But looking back now, I see the truth. I wasn't running toward anything. I was running away. Because in silence you have to sit with yourself. And back then I didn't even know who that man was. And then life did what it always does in the end. It slowed me down. First came retirement. The calls stopped. The emails stopped. The title I spent 40 years chasing disappeared without a goodbye. Then the children moved away. They built lives filled with their own noise, their own urgency. And suddenly the house felt bigger than it ever had. And then my wife died. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just quietly. 4 years ago, when she was gone, the last layer of noise went with her. I was left alone in this house with too much space and too much time. I walked from room to room, fixing things that weren't broken, cleaning things that were already clean. I told myself I was staying busy, but the truth was simpler. I was afraid to sit still because I knew what was waiting for me in the silence. And one morning, sitting in this very chair, I finally stopped resisting it. The silence didn't leave, so I had no choice but to listen. That's when it hit me. My biggest regrets in life had nothing to do with money, or missed promotions, or the life I didn't build. I realized something far harder to admit. For 80 years I had been living with a stranger, and that stranger was me. I had spent my life learning how to please others, how to be useful, how to be needed, but I never learned how to be with myself. The loneliness I felt wasn't because no one was around. It was because I had abandoned myself decades ago, traded my inner life for constant motion, and called it success. That realization didn't feel like wisdom. It felt like grief. Society teaches us to fear being by ourselves. They call it isolation. They call it a problem to be fixed. So they tell you to stay busy. Turn on the TV. Scroll your phone. Fill every quiet moment so you never have to sit still. I believed that for most of my life. But here's what took me 80 years to understand. Being alone was never the problem. What hurt was not knowing how to be with myself. I wasn't lonely because no one was around. I was lonely because I had spent decades avoiding my own thoughts. Silence didn't create the pain, it only revealed it. And once I stopped running from that silence, once I finally stayed in the room with myself, the fear slowly lost its grip. Not everything that feels uncomfortable is bad for you. Sometimes it's the very thing you've been missing all along. So I stopped turning on the television first thing in the morning. I stopped reaching for my phone just to hear a voice. I started noticing things. Now my morning coffee isn't just coffee. I feel the warmth of the mug in my hands. I smell it before I taste it. I sit there for 20 minutes doing nothing but drinking it, and somehow that feels like enough. I watch the sunlight move across the living room floor. It takes hours to travel from the bookshelf to the sofa. I lived in this house for 30 years and never once noticed that. When it rains, I don't rush to distract myself. I just listen. The sound on the roof, the steady rhythm. It's better than any music I ever bought. These moments don't look important from the outside. But when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to be someone, you realize something quietly powerful. These small moments were never empty. I was just too busy to see them. 10 years ago, I couldn't stand looking at myself in the mirror. All I saw were wrinkles, slowing hands, a man the world no longer needed. I measured myself by what I had lost, my role, my usefulness, my place in the noise, and the regrets in life felt heavy, like they were piling up faster than I could carry them. But today I look at that same face and feel something different. I see a man who survived his own rushing. I see someone who finally stopped fighting time. I've forgiven the younger version of myself. The man who worked too much. The father who didn't always listen. The husband who stayed busy instead of present. I don't punish myself anymore. I treat myself the way I once treated my grandchildren, with patience, with gentleness. The house is still quiet, but now it feels less like an empty place and more like a safe one. So let me ask you something. You listening to this in your car or on the train or while folding laundry late at night, when was the last time you were truly alone? Not just physically alone, but mentally quiet. No phone in your hand. No music in your ears. No podcast filling the space. No planning tomorrow. No replaying yesterday. Just you. When was the last time you sat still long enough to ask yourself, how am I really doing? And be honest. Does the silence make you uncomfortable? Do you keep yourself busy because you're afraid of what might surface once everything goes quiet? Or is there something inside you that's been waiting patiently for you to finally listen? You don't have to wait until you are 82 to stop running. You don't need a tragedy or a retirement party or an empty house to meet yourself for the first time. You still have time. The world will keep trying to fill every quiet space for you, with noise, with distractions, with things it wants you to buy. You don't have to accept that. Take a few minutes today. Turn everything off. Sit in the quiet. Not to fix yourself. Not to improve anything. Just to be there. Because at the end of the road, when the house is quiet and the world has moved on, you'll be left with one companion. Make sure it's someone you're willing to sit with. Before I go, let me say this. If something in this story stayed with you longer than you expected, you're not alone. If it made you pause for a moment or sit a little quieter than usual, then maybe this wasn't just my story. If you feel like sharing, leave a comment, not to explain, not to impress, just a few honest words about what the silence has been asking of you. And if you'd like to hear more reflections like this from people who learned the hard way, you're welcome to stay. There are still a few things left to say.